Hello and welcome to Witchy Wellness Radio. I'm your host, Lauren Chalantani, women's holistic health coach and fellow recovering perfectionist. This podcast was created to show you that your body is not in the way, it is actually leading your way. Hello, welcome back to Witchy Wellness. You are listening to episode 143, The Busy Woman's Guide to Stress Less with Dr. Valerie Hertzog. But before we jump into today's amazing episode, a word from our sponsor, Living the Good Life Naturally Magnesium. This is my go-to brand for transdermal or on-the-skin magnesium supplementation. Transdermally is the easiest way and most effective way you can absorb the magnesium into your body. Things like your stress level, your diet, and so many other factors go into your magnesium burn rate. If you want to learn more about this, listen to episode 73 of Witchy Wellness Radio and make sure to go to Living the Good Life Naturally's website in the show notes and use code WITCHY, WICTHY, for 10% off of your purchase. And without further ado, please enjoy episode 143, The Busy Women's Guide to Stress Less with Dr. Valerie Hertzog. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Witchy Wellness Radio. This is a show you learn how your body and emotions are not in the way, but actually leading the way. And today we are talking with Dr. Valerie Hertzog all about stress management, definitely how your body can be not in the way, but leading the way. We're talking about stress management, how to prioritize your well-being. A brief bio about Dr. Valerie. She is an MD wellness coach, mom of 3 young girls that just got mostly put to bed before the show. And her mission is to inspire and empower ambitious women to prioritize their health and well-being so they can thrive. She's completed her medical training at the University of Toronto and University of Ottawa. She practices preventative medicine and offers counseling to patients to help them achieve their lifestyle and lifestyle medicine goals. She believes the importance of whole person approach to health and has completed training in cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, positive psychology, lifestyle medicine and nutrition, and she is also a yoga teacher as well. We love yoga here in Witchy Wellness. And as a wellness coach, she guides women to identify what matters to them most, improve their overall health and well-being, work on specific health goals, manage their stress, develop a self-care routine, and find their own sense of balance that is so needed, even this past year and a half, 2 years. So much so. Welcome to the show, Dr. Valerie.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. So happy to be here.
Oh, yeah. Likewise. I always like having friends on that I know to the show. Yeah. It just brightens my day. Just have a little cup of tea together, even though it's a little late for tea here. Some water.
Some herbal tea with me today.
Herbal tea.
Yeah.
So, I think stress management is huge. And I even, I have to check myself all the time because we can so easily get stuck in our own heads, especially as ambitious women like ourselves, where we want to do more, but from this good place to help more people or learn new things. Yeah. And sometimes that is a lot to juggle.
Yes, the juggle is real. Yeah. Lots going on for sure.
Yeah. And
for all of us.
I would love to hear, how did you get into all of this lifestyle well-being? I'm sure I know your story. I know it beautifully connects into this from being a traditional doctor to now being very preventative and stress management. Could you let us know on your big backstory, actually?
Of course, yes. Yeah, I've always been interested in taking care of other people, and it started from a young age. I always knew I wanted to do something where I was working directly with people. And so, as I was growing up and going through school, I started putting a lot of pressure on my own shoulders. I decided eventually that I wanted to go to medical school, which obviously took a lot of work. And so already the stress was sort of building in my life. And I got into medical school, which was amazing. And I was super excited and just ready to take on the world and do all the things to help other people. And over time, I just started to feel like just so stressed. Like I had the world, the weight of the world on my shoulders. It just got to be a lot. And by the time I actually graduated from medical school, I just felt like fully like on the edge of burnout, just not like myself. I felt like so much had changed, and like the energy and the spirit that I had taken in to medical school with me had sort of disappeared. And instead of being excited and happy on my graduation day, which was already 10 years ago, I felt really like just stressed and burnt out and frustrated, and I just didn't really know what to do. And part of my whole journey too is that in medical school I developed a autoimmune condition where I actually lost all of my hair. So that was actually quite a traumatic experience, and it happened gradually. And as a medical student, I was doing lots of clinical rotations, working in the hospital, long nights. Sometimes 24 to 30 hours at the hospital without any real breaks. Like it was just really, really difficult. And I knew that was part of what I had to do and to get my degree. And obviously, I wanted to do it. And one day I developed a small bald patch at the back of my head, and that's kind of when it all started to unravel for me. And I was 22, 23, like sort of, on top of the world. I'd always been very healthy. And all of a sudden this hit me. And over the course of a few months, I actually lost all of my hair. So my scalp hair, my eyebrows, my eyelashes, like everything, all body hair. But I soldiered on like a lot of women, right? We just keep going, like no matter what, like we know that we have goals and we have things we want to accomplish. So I kept going up until my graduation, where I just felt like I'm lost. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Obviously, medicine had taken a toll on me, and I wasn't sure. So from that point forward, I knew that I had to make a change. That being said, it took me some time to make a change because I wanted to keep going and finish my training. I still had a few more years left. I eventually became a family doctor. But I knew that I had to find my own path, and I wanted to do something different. I didn't just want to keep going. I knew that I had to first take care of myself. So that was the first big discovery. I realized that in order for me to help others and to really be there for others, I had to prioritize my own health and well-being, which sounds simple, but it's obviously hard to do in practice. A lot of us, I think, struggle with that. So once I finished my training, I started to sort of follow my own path, and I set clear boundaries. So I decided that I didn't want to do any more overnight shifts or weekends. Like I needed that time for myself. So I set some boundaries. I started to spend time in nature and made sure I was outside as much as I could. I practiced yoga regularly, which was really healing. And I spent time with friends and family, like made sure I prioritized that as my training had finished. I had more time, and I also focused on eating healthy foods and moving my body. So all like relatively simple things, but all put together made a huge, huge difference. And then over time, I also picked my work opportunities. I made sure that I wasn't working those crazy hours anymore. And I found this new sense of balance. And that has definitely made a huge impact in my life. And then over time, I wanted to start sharing with other people what I had learned. And that's why I started to focus more on preventative medicine and more of a holistic approach to health. And and that's sort of where I am today. So I have multiple roles, and I love to help others achieve their own sense of wellness. And it definitely shifts over time. So for me too, like since I've graduated now, I have 3 kids. I'm busy working mom. There's lots of different things going on in my life. So it's always about, for me, finding a new sense of balance and always sort of checking in with myself to make sure that I'm doing well and I'm managing my stress, and then to help others do the same.
Oh yeah. Beautiful story. And for me, it took me a while to get into which is funny because I'm all about yoga and meditation and all this stuff, because I was so ambitious in this perfectionist overachiever mentality since little girl.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to calm down. I was like, I have too much to do. I have too much to give or be, and which I know that inner perfectionist kind of can rear its head still today.
For sure.
For sure. I have to keep that in check. But, I love what you say, you love to help women who are ambitious. For you, what are some signals for yourself, but also, maybe for the listeners, when you are ambitious and kind of get down that rabbit hole, what are some good pointers to be able to like check yourself before you wreck yourself?
Right. And I think like it's different for all of us. Like we all have different signs or symptoms that'll come out when we're feeling stressed. So I think the first thing to ask ourselves is like, what does stress feel like in my body? Like how do I know that I'm stressed? But sometimes we don't even realize, right? We're kind of just running on autopilot and we're stressed, but it's just our normal, right? We think it's normal to just always feel stressed, but it's actually not normal. We shouldn't be feeling stressed all the time. So the first step is really to check in with yourself. Like for me, for instance, I know like little signs, like for me, like my shoulders will get really tense. I might get like some headaches. I might sort of feel like a little nauseous, or my stomach might feel kind of off if I'm feeling stressed. So those are some smaller signs. And then some bigger things for sure. Like if I have difficulty sleeping, that could be a sign that obviously there's something going on. There's something that's causing me some stress in my life that I have to deal with. So for everybody, it's a little bit different, but the first step is really to just take some time. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. It can just be like a few minutes just to kind of sit and breathe and just see how you're feeling. And once you know your signs too, you're more likely to recognize them. So if you know that, when you're stressed, you feel a certain way, then you might notice it more. And then the first step, of course, is recognizing it. And then once you know where your stress is, and you can start dealing with it. Yeah.
Yeah. The hardest part is, I think, sometimes recognizing it. Mm-hmm. Even yesterday I was like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I, I go, oh, I'm stressed out. And today I've been able to notice, actually, yesterday was the emotion. Today I can actually feel there's some physical sensations in my body. Mm-hmm. Like today, I felt angry and anxious yesterday. And today I can actually feel my chest was tightening up a little bit. Okay. And like shortness of breath. I could actually feel that before I was like, I feel the anxiety. I can feel that sensation. Those are symptoms for me, for sure. Mm-hmm. And then I go, okay, what's that tape going on in the background? What am I saying that's causing this? Because this isn't popping up from nowhere, so to speak. Right. Like a lot of the times all the time, I'm creating that stress.
We do that to ourselves, don't we? Right?
We do. We love to do that.
High expectations. Yeah. I'm the same way. Like recently too, I just went through a move, which is a really stressful situation. And I had to definitely check in with myself, because there were some moments that were really tough. And it's true, like sometimes you don't even realize it, and then you notice what's going on in your body. And that's like one of the biggest clues. And even when there is stress, sometimes we can't do anything about the stress. If there's a stressor there, like it's just happening, but we can definitely control our reactions and how we process the stress and what we do in order that the stress doesn't, cause us to become unwell or unable to function, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I loved how you said you started adding in different things to your self-care routine, like yoga, eating healthier, different stress management tools. Mm-hmm. I know from being a perfectionist self and me getting into this, I'm like, I want to do it all and do it all at once. Yeah. And that's not how you do it. Hint, hint. But what are some more ideas, or how can you kind of start to add in things without the overwhelm? Because for ambitious, perfectionist women like myself, it's like you want to do all of it 1,000%, but that's just going to lead to overwhelm and burnout.
Right. And then sometimes the self-care becomes like something else on your to-do list, right? Like you feel guilty if you're not doing it. And that's like not the point at all. I totally get that in the same way. So I think like it really doesn't have to be complicated. This is what I'm all about. Like it's like small, meaningful changes can make a big difference in our lives. So like it'd be great if we could all, stop working and go relax on the beach, but that's not the reality for most of us, right? We have responsibilities and we're ambitious too. We want to do things, we want to accomplish things. So it can be very, very simple. Like one of my favorite things that I would do is just take a moment to breathe. So during your day, no matter what you're doing, I used to do it before I'd go in to see a patient. So especially if I just had like a more difficult encounter and I was feeling tense, a little bit stressed, I would take literally like 30 seconds before I walked in to see a patient. And I would just stand, or usually I was standing. So stand and just feel my feet on the ground and just take a couple deep breaths, right? And it takes just a minute or two, depending on how much time you have. And that right away would just change the energy and help manage this, like the acute stress that I was dealing with in that moment. So breathing is super important, and I highly recommend it. So often we're just on autopilot and we're not actually breathing, or we're not noticing our breathing, right? So taking a few deep breaths, and then think about like what you like what is it that brings you joy and that helps you de-stress. Everyone's a little bit different. So we talked about yoga. I think you and I both love yoga. So for me, like even if it's just 10, 15 minutes on my mat, it just changes everything for me, and it can really, really help. Spending time outside is another great one. Again, it can be very short, but making sure we get outside every day, even for just a few minutes, like 10 minutes, just walking around the block. Or if you're working in an office, getting out at lunchtime is really important. And just getting some sunshine, some fresh air is a really great stress reliever as well. And just start where you're at. So if you only have 5 minutes, just pick something to do for 5 minutes. And build from there. So don't feel like you have to do all the things, and what works for me might not work for you, and that's okay. So just find, small moments during your day where you can put in a little bit of self-care and stress relief.
Yeah, it does not have to be complicated. And a lot of the examples you mentioned, if not all of them, are free. I mean, you can roll out your yoga mat or whatever and practice. There's tons of free YouTube videos if you want a guided practice, which it is amazing. A lot of these self-care practices that get you present are all something that can be, or all are free or cheap, or, it doesn't have to be some huge elaborate spa day or retreat, which I love.
Which are great too. Yeah. Exactly. But no, you can't do that every day, right? So it's all about finding little things that really help. Yeah, for sure.
And when I am in the high peak fight or flight stress response, just like that's like the norm of my life. It's hard for me to really figure out what I want, or like identify what matters in those situations. Like, well, I just don't want to feel stressed.
Right.
How I know you help women to identify what matters to them, so you can, help them in their own wellness journey. What are some tips if you're in the trenches right now and you're just kind of feeling lost and confused, that you can help gain some more clarity?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. So I think, again, it's knowing yourself. So spending some time, maybe when you're not like in that acute stress situation. And one exercise I really love is something I call fountains and drains, or energy givers and then energy takers. So sitting down and spending a few minutes to write down like what actually brings you energy, like what sort of things that you like to do that make you feel good, that bring you joy, that give you energy, and make a little list. And then at the same time, you can make a list of like everything that drains you. So your drains, and keep that list there too. And what I like to do is, and what I recommend to women too, is if you know that there is something coming up that's going to be stressful, that's going to drain your energy, and it's in your schedule, it's going to happen, it's there. Make sure that you schedule a little bit of time afterwards where you do like a stress reliever, or you put in a fountain. So if you know that, let's say, spending time outside is something that really, really helps you, then after a difficult meeting or a difficult call or whatever it is that you're dealing with, you make sure that you spend like 5 minutes outside or 10 minutes outside or whatever it is. So scheduling those in and actually writing them down, like putting them in your planner or in your agenda, on your online calendar, whatever it is, and making sure that you make the time for it. That can really help. And it doesn't have to be huge, like small changes really do make a difference. And having those small moments, I find can really be a significant change in our day-to-day life. I'm curious for you too. Is there anything that like works for you when you're sort of in that
I was mindset? Thinking transitions, like whether it's a energy drain or a fountain, no matter what task, when I shift from a different task, whether it's in work or at home, I allow myself a break. And a lot of times it's going, take the dog outside for a walk, or I just go for a walk, or I'll put on some music and dance to one song, or just sit there or put on a YouTube video, an inspirational YouTube video, something that allows me to become present again, to, open my awareness, so that when I shift into that next activity, whether it's something I'm excited about or not excited about, I can be present and aware. With work, I find that if I just crank out and work straight through the whole day, I'm not as productive. I make more mistakes. and I'm way more stressed and my energy level is so down. And that's when the cravings of sugar and caffeine and all the things that I can get myself into trouble with.
Right.
Over caffeinated, over sugared. The transitions are huge. Just realizing that we aren't meant to work or do one thing the whole day. We're meant to be moving and shifting, and it's okay to take a break.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds counterintuitive, right? We think like we should just keep working, but you're right. Like it makes such a difference to take a break. And research actually shows that we shouldn't be sitting there for hours, right? We can only really focus, I think it's for about 40 minutes or so. And then we should be taking like a 5-minute break. And I love you mentioned music. I love that because that is like an instant energy shift for me as well. I love that. Just putting like a song on and dancing and just taking a moment makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah. And the whole household gets involved. Like the dog will start dancing with me, it's fun. It can be, a group activity.
Yeah, definitely with the kids too, right? You see that like kids just love music and movement, and we're all meant to be moving, right? We sometimes forget that.
Mm-hmm. And for me, the word, like the etymology of emotion, E for energy and motion. So when I'm in that fight or flight, whether it's anxiety or even if I'm angry or what we consider feelings we don't want to be in.
Right.
I will move my body, whether it's yoga or dancing it out. And based on how I feel, my body moves way differently than, if I'm sad or a little, depressed, I'm going to be moving slower. If I'm angry, I will pound on the ground. I'll jump around. Like it's just, you can feel that momentum and that's okay. Like for me, I'm like, no one's watching me. Sometimes I do post it, when I feel like I can, but it's my moment to let that emotion move through me and not let it get stagnant. Because for so long, I pushed everything down. Like, oh, I'm upset that happened, or I got angry that happened, or I'm anxious. It's like, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. And push it down, down, down. But I find when I really, really allow myself to feel it and get it out and shake it out, it's not that I'm pushing it down, it's I'm processing it. And when I get on the other side of that emotion, most of the time I can sit down, think to myself, okay, what's coming up behind this emotion? Because sometimes when you get really strong emotions, you might not necessarily know why or from where. And the biggest thing is to keep that emotion, that energy moving. And I forget what the study was called, but there were studies. If you truly feel your own emotion, I think it's less than a minute. I want to say 30 seconds. If you truly feel it and you truly are present with it, then that's all that's at the maximum you can feel it. But once you start to get wrapped up in that story, once you start, you actually recreate it after that 30 seconds. You are mentally choosing to stay in that state.
Right.
Yeah. For me, when I notice myself being in those states, I'm like, okay, stop and transition. How do I need to move? Not that I shouldn't feel these feelings. I want to feel these feelings, but I don't want them to get stagnant. I don't want this to be a part of my day-to-day life, within reason. Like if you're in stressful situations, obviously, but some of the most stressful, unknown times of my life have also been on the opposite side of that polarity. Some of the most peaceful, present times I've ever had amidst all of the chaos. And I would have never believed that if I had told myself that 10 years ago. But that was a little bit of a tangent on this, but I would say feel the feelings. And when you're able to feel it and be present with it, that's when that stillness and contentment and that presence actually comes from.
That is, yes, so powerful. I totally agree. It's the wave of emotion, right? To feel that emotion. We're supposed to feel emotions, right? They come up for a reason. And it's, like you said, when we don't deal with those emotions, that's when problems can arise. And it's the same. It made me think of the stress cycle, because it's the same sort of thing. Like there's supposed to be a beginning, a middle, and an end to the stress cycle, but so many of us are stuck in the middle. We don't even realize it. We never really process that stress, and we get stuck. And that's when all of the negative side effects can come. And even like if it stays like that for too long, even chronic disease and different things can develop. So it's so important to deal with what we're feeling and to try to end that stress cycle through all the different ways that we've already sort of talked about. And there's so many more as well.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely what I'm doing, is like completer in that cycle. And sometimes it's yelling, screaming into a pillow, banging on the floor, whatever, like having an adult temper tantrum. Like healing doesn't have to look like some peaceful yogi. Like let it all out. Some days it is. Some days it is.
Yeah. Another one too for me is writing. So sometimes just like writing out whatever's going on, like journaling, and again, uncensored, just like free flow, whatever's on your mind can really help as well. Just get it all out and process what's going on.
Yeah, it forces you to actually look at what is actually going, like develop of like how to communicate that and write that out, so you can actually read it, see the patterns, and I'm just complaining about this, or this one issue. Well, what's the deeper issue to that? It's when I start writing, it's always some surface level, like he said, she said, just kind of drama. And then you can go deeper and deeper. And some days I find, the transition of writing that day, at the end, I start writing and it's like, am I the one writing? This is like just the advice that I write and channel for myself. I'm like, wow, I really just wrote that? Like, this is really, what I hear. And honestly, you guys, a lot of the weekly inspirational episodes that I do every Monday are my journal entries of writing. It's what I need to hear. And getting, writing when I'm upset to transition into a higher state of consciousness, or when I'm feeling really good, I also have to set myself down to write, because in those moments, that's what kindles my fire of inspiration, of my focus, of that positivity to keep going with my own ambitions, but also keep going in my own stress management as well.
That's really great. Yeah, I love that. And it's, again, sometimes when you're feeling like down, or if you're feeling anxious or stressed, and going back and looking when you were in a positive mindset, what you wrote down, it's almost like words of wisdom or encouragement that you would like give a friend that you can use for yourself. That's really great.
Yep, because a lot of times when you're stressed, if you really are paying attention to how you're talking to yourself, it's you would not talk to anybody like the way you talk to yourself.
Yeah, we're our own worst critic.
Oh my goodness.
The voice in our head sometimes can be really damaging.
Yeah, and I'm sure you talk about this in your new course, The Busy Woman's Guide to Stress Less.
Yes.
I would love to hear all about this course. Kind of give us the overhead view here, if you will, of what's expected.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've always sort of wanted to create a course, and this kind of came from my own experiences and when I've been working with others. And it's all about like how we can help ourselves deal with stress. So we're busy. We talk about like busy, ambitious, lots going on, and we often don't take the time to take care of ourselves. So my course is all about like simple tips and tricks that you can use. I've developed 7 different lessons, and they're all really short, like about 10 minutes or less, so that I know we're all busy. So that it's doable. We can sit down and actually finish a lesson, and it's full of action tips and journaling exercises as well. And by the end of it, the whole goal is to develop your own 10-minute self-care stress reliever practice. And that I hope that people take with them. There's a worksheet that's included to help guide you. And it's my sort of fun little passion project that I've worked on, and I'm super excited about it.
Oh, I love that. I mean, we created our courses together, so I kind of got the inside scoop of Valerie's course. But I love how at the end you create your own 10-minute routine, because it's so important to figure out what works for you. One day might not work, the next day it will, but to develop that routine, to promise to yourself that you matter enough to take care of, to these 10 minutes to discipline yourself. Because for me, self-care also means discipline to do these activities. Like,
yeah,
I'm still not a morning person. Like, it still takes a lot of energy for me to get up to do those things. But I know that that's what helps me maintain my mental, physical, and emotional well-being.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about, just taking a few minutes for yourself. And like, I usually recommend 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night, like before bed. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like, if you're not a morning person, it doesn't have to be like right first thing when you wake up. Like for me, like my kids come and wake me up. So that's not like the best time for me to sit and reflect. So for me, it's usually right before I start work. Like I'll take 5 minutes and do a couple of little exercises and reflect and think about my goals for the day. And then I do something similar at night, where just before bed, I reflect on my day and how things went and what I want for the next day. And I find too that by even just writing down a few notes at night before bed, it kind of clears your head, and then it helps actually with sleep as well. So that's a really good little exercise to get into the habit of doing. And also, like you said, with self-discipline, like sometimes like I'll stop doing it for a couple of days or whatever. Like life gets busy, and that's okay. Like we have to stop like shaming ourselves or feeling bad. Like it's okay, right? So just whenever that happens, you just kind of get back into your routine and start taking care of yourself again, and things fall into place.
You're right. There's this fine line, and I have to walk it finely too, of the discipline to take care of myself, but also if I fall off track, it's okay. It's okay.
Exactly.
I can always get back on. What matters is that I do. It's not that I fell off or how long I fell off. And that's giving ourselves grace in so many areas of our lives is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself, I think.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. It's a work in progress. Right?
We
learn as we go.
Exactly. And there's I don't think there's no end goal of achievement, of perfection or health or wellness or abundance, whatever you are looking for that. And there's always going to be more. And not to say that you're not enough, but life is always going to change and develop, and so will you. And there's no end goal of, if I'm healthy, I'll be happy. If I have my dream job, then I'll be successful. There's the if-then situation. You can be happy now. You can feel successful now. You can feel that abundance now before those things come into your life, because they will. Especially if you work on your own stress management and add things in like the Busy Women's Guide to Stress Less. And Valerie, was there anything else you wanted to talk about or wrap up before we start to close the show down today?
Yeah, I guess like for me, it's I really want to encourage like everyone who's listening to take like one step, like to figure out like what is one thing I can do today. Like you were just saying, like we don't have to wait, right? Like there's never going to be a perfect time to start whatever it is. Or so what is it that you can do today? And write down a commitment, like this is what I'm going to do. Like I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes, 3 times a week, and I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths, like whatever it is, really focus in, because I would say, like, what could you accomplish if you really took care of yourself and you put yourself first? Like imagine like the people that you love, like if you were showing up for yourself, like you can show up more fully for them. So all about making that commitment and just showing up for yourself so that you can show up for others. I really hope that everyone does that today.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. I love the quote. If you want to save the world or heal the world, heal yourself first. It's the cheesy oxygen mask, put it on yourself before you help other people. As cheesy as that is, it's so true.
Yes. Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Valerie, for coming on the show today. It was So wonderful. Thank you for letting me join in on the conversation. I nerd out about this kind of stuff. I love helping people with this kind of stuff. But honestly, this is the kind of stuff I love to implement in my own life because I need it. I am that ambitious woman in the, who wants more, but I need to be able to ground myself in that present moment and realize that I am enough right now. So thank you for helping other women, other ambitious women do the same. And how may we, the listeners, as an act of gratitude, be of service for you in return today?
Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be on with you today. I would like everyone who's listening to just take a moment and say out loud or just in your head and just tell yourself, like, I am worthy of taking care of myself, and make that commitment and just sit with those feelings that come up, because we are all worthy and it is so important that we take care of ourselves. So I am worthy of taking care of myself, and just start there, and it will make all the difference.
Yes, you guys are worthy. I'm worthy. Valerie, you are worthy of taking care of ourselves. If you guys like this episode, make sure to head over to Valerie's website, check out the Busy Women's Guide to Stress Less. And if you have a fellow ambitious friend, sister, mom, cousin, whoever, or guy in your life, please share this episode, because you are worth taking care of yourself and stressing less. We didn't even go into all of the complications that stress can do on your physical and mental health, but you guys know it's real. This is COVID world. The stress is high, just in general. So please feel free to share it along, and make sure to check out the Busy Women's Guide to Stress Less. Awesome. Thank you so much, Valerie.
Thanks.
And remember, open up, surrender, trust, and let your body lead the way.